early to mid 2000s was some of the best times for America, or so they thought anyway. The idea of American exceptionalism was at its peak during this time, as the scientists within America created some of the most advanced technology the world had ever seen, all powered by the same technology as the atomic bombs that ended World War II in 1945. Futuristic cars were designed, 1950s influenced designs were being embraced in homes and infrastructure, and robot servants were becoming an everyday thing in most households. It was a time for prosperity for most in America, way before they knew of the events that would happen in 2077. During this time of great prosperity, a drink would be made that would be massively popular all through the land, so much so that it would inspire its maker to create a place where people could go and enjoy themselves with their families and embrace the brand that was known as Nuka-Cola. With this, Nuka-World was created, filled with bright, bold, colourful rides and accommodation for all to enjoy. This was a place filled with happiness, and many people would enjoy the sights when travelling to this amusement park out within Massachusetts, west of Boston. The park was an overwhelming success for the Nuka-Cola brand, and this would continue for years until the Great War came into effect in 2077. After those horrific events, this amusement park would be shut down and left as a ruin, highlighting how some of the best places on Earth could then be turned into something horrifying. But as it lay there empty for a while, eventually this land would be taken over by a group of raiders, as they went on to rule it with an iron fist and turn it into a place filled with death and corruption. But what is the story of Nuka-World? Who are these raiders? What did they want with this once beautiful, fun amusement park? And where are those raiders now? Well, in today's video we will be looking at the backstory of Nuka-World, as well as the raiders that inhabit its land within the year of 2287. This is the story of Nuka-World and its raiders from Fallout 4. The story of Nuka-Cola and thus Nuka-World all starts with one man, a chemist and businessman known as John Caleb Bradberton. Throughout the 2040s, Bradberton was actively working on creating a brand new drink that he wanted to be the biggest drink on the American market. Development for this continued for a good while until finally, after nearly 2 years of experimenting, Bradberton, along with a few other organic chemists that he would later call his beverages, would finally create their drink known as Nuka-Cola. By the year 2044, Nuka-Cola finally entered the beverage market, and despite being one of the most unhealthiest drinks on the market, containing 120% of the recommended daily allowance of sugar, the drink went on to be the most popular drink on the market, and within a year of it going on sale, it would become known all across the nation. As its popularity increased all over America, it would also become one of the biggest brands across the globe. This continued on, and the corporation started to create other varieties of the drink, including a cherry flavour and a grape and orange. Bradberton was thrilled by the success of his new drink, and on the Memorial Day weekend of 2049, he would go on to witness hordes of people enjoying his drink at fairgrounds and just generally having a good time with his product in hand. This inspired Bradberton, who instantly said to himself, a day like this should be every day. After this day in 2049, Bradberton went on to start working on his new plan. That was to start planning and designing a theme park specifically designed around his drink brand that he would go on to name Nuka-World. This was easily achievable thanks to how popular this drink was, allowing Bradberton to fund and build this entire theme park in less than a year. And on the 1st of May 2050, his theme park was finally opened, with Nuka Town, USA and Kiddie Kingdom being the first parts to be opened on it. During its grand opening, over 40,000 tickets were taken, making it one of the most successful openings for a theme park in America. It was a huge success, and Bradberton was able to gain people's interest in the long run by stating more attractions were to be opened in the next coming years. By 2058, Dry Rock Gulch was opened, celebrating the brand's release of its own root beer variant, and would be more of a Wild West themed area, and in 2067 the next expansion was opened, that being called Safari Adventure, with a real focus on wildlife, as the scientists in this part of the park attempted to clone the the animals. This did trigger some animal activist groups, however, as the animal friends and defenders went on to kidnap one of the top scientists, Dr. Hine, and held him hostage at the Angry Anaconda on the day of the Great War to try and get them to end the experiments on the animals. The final expansion before the event of the Great War was in 2072 and was named the Galactic Zone. Bradberton's wishes for this area were supposedly to bring customers a taste of the future, and because of this, it became the most popular attraction within the whole park, with a great collaboration with Robco Industries and Vault-Tec Corporation, as well as many other companies. This area was a fantastic way for the companies attached to it to show off their technology and where humanity is heading in the future, featuring a Robco battle zone to display the latest and greatest robot technology, as well as Vault-Tec Among the Stars attraction, which was able to show guests a glimpse of Vault-Tec vaults that were used to colonize distant planets. Prior to this final expansion, however, it was clear that there was a need for space, housing, and parking to make sure all of the guests could enjoy the most of this theme park, as its popularity was constantly increasing. With this, Bradberton went on to create an employee community in 2060, which would be dubbed as Bradberton, Massachusetts, which would allow park staff members to live, reducing commute times as well as traffic congestion. For a long time, this park was an overwhelming success. However, the year was now 2076 and the Great War was roaring its head. Because of this increase in tension and American forces being sent all over the world to fight in its battles, General Braxton, a high-ranking official within the Army's Research and Development Division, was sent to sign an agreement with Bradberton to decrease the manpower and budget allocated to the facility to make sure those resources went to the Army's project known as Project Cobalt. Project Cobalt was a secret operation that worked alongside the Nuka-Cola Corporation to theoretically weaponize anything they could get their hands on, using the company's new formula that would go on to be sold as Nuka-Cola Quantum after these experiments. This was successful as they were able to create an isotope of strontium 900 that was able to be weaponized as a coating for power armor, a custom munition for the prototypical M42 Fat Man, as well as an area effect weapon that could be safely deployed from something as simple as a thirst zapper, essentially just a small water gun. With Bradberton's involvement within this project sending forward his Beveragier division to aid the military, Bradberton was able to also get access to the military secret program known as Leap X, a life extension and prolongation program that would hopefully allow Bradberton to continue living on even if war was to devastate the land, similar to the process of Mr. House out in New Vegas. As well as that, Robco would go on to use the battle zone within the Galactic Zone to test their latest military units such as the Protectrons, Sentry Bots, and Assaultrons. Bradberton would certainly benefit from this move, as he would be able to use these robots to defend the park if the need arose, as he gained access to the cutting-edge Star mainframe, which controlled all of the robots within the park. But on top of all of that, Bradberton worked with Vault-Tec to bolster his personal security, building himself a private sanctuary which would be built beneath Nuka Town, USA. This would be his sanctuary and way of surviving the Great War, and even to this date is where he continues to live thanks to the Leap X program and the work of Vault-Tec. All of these new things put in place to aid the military did have a huge impact on the park, however, especially with the staff. Because of the decrease in funds and support, as well as the increase in robotics being added to the park, the staff members would become extremely nervous about what was happening. However, if any of the staff were to speak up about their concerns, they would be immediately fired and not replaced by anyone new, meaning more strain was put on the staff who remained in the park. But things got even worse for the park when one employee, Tim Whittingstone, was accidentally shot to death by the robotic performers, making it clear to all of the remaining staff that the worries they had were becoming true. But despite all of these disasters happening within the park, Bradberton did not care and instead turned his focus to getting Nuka-Cola Quantum out to the public as fast as possible, fast-tracking all approval processes. Getting to quality control, 62 test subjects would go on to die because of organ failure, and many more were hospitalized with radiation radiation burns before finally they were able to create a safe isotope to use. With Bradberton now completing his end of the bargain to General Braxton, it was now his opportunity to gain full access to the Leap X process. Just before he underwent the surgery, Bradberton realized that if he wanted to live on forever, only his head would be able to be preserved. And in January 2077, Bradberton told the team that this was his wish. On the 2nd of April 2077, Bradberton finally underwent the surgical procedure and his head was successfully removed and transferred into the Leap X system. 6 months after this successful surgery, the Great War occurred and Bradberton was able to survive thanks to the Leap X system as well as his private bunker in which he continued to live within the park he built thanks to his overwhelming successful creation. Nuka-World was now void of any real life for a good while after the Great War. A world that was filled with smiling families enjoying the activities the park offered was now sitting silent, with the Nuka-Cola adverts plastered all over the place, slowly rotting due to the natural elements of the land. Decades passed as the world continued to recover from the horrific events, and eventually the park saw life once again. A small group of traders moved into the local area and set themselves up there, making sure their new little society was peaceful and open to anyone needing help. The park's resources were still plentiful, and because of it the traders were able to thrive from this area. But this was a problem. Due to how plentiful this area still was, word started to go out about this once amazing amusement park, attracting raiders to seek out the area and take it for themselves. With this, one group led by a raider known as Colter went to take this area, enslaving the traders that lived there and changing the theme park for their own amusement. Now was the era of the raiders and the rise of Colter, as well as his right-hand man, Porter Gage. Prior to the invasion of the Raiders of Nuka-World, one of the main raiders was a part of a whole different group, traveling around the wasteland and gaining respect his own way. This raider was known as Porter Gage. Gage grew up in a small farming settlement with his parents who were under frequent attacks from raiders. Gage's parents, however, wanted nothing more than just peace, so during the raiders' movements, they would give in to all of their demands. Gage would witness this every day of his life and was frustrated that his family was being exploited by these raiders. Eventually he would join a caravan and start doing mercenary work all over, but he would still continue to witness raiders exploiting individuals. By the age of 16, his new settlement was once again raided, but by this point he had had enough. He was not going to be scared of them any longer, and he was definitely not going to flee from them. Instead, this time, Gage joined the raiders and left behind being a mercenary. Joining one raider group, Gage would witness the overall strength of them, but also notice that they would never use that strength wisely. With this, Gage tried to suggest different ways in which the raiders could be improved and streamlined, until eventually the leader of the gang, Connor the Harvester, approached him to see what Gage was talking about. Gage constantly saw Connor's name as a bit of a joke, but regardless saw him as his leader and would tell Connor of his plans to enhance the gang, and much to Gage's surprise, Connor listened and was extremely excited by his ideas. With this young boy seemingly knowing what he was talking about, Connor would constantly turn to Gage for advice, as well as get his opinion on his plans, with Connor also stating how much he trusted him, which would massively boost Gage's ego. A year passed of Gage being involved in this gang, working alongside Connor to make suggestions on how to deal with other rival gangs. Peace was one of the main suggestions he would make, and eventually Connor would agree with this tactic and made Gage his main negotiator for the situation they had put themselves into, as they went on to meet the opposing gang on neutral ground. An hour passed during their negotiation, and things were going well with the other gang members, seemingly agreeing to Gage's plans. However, during this, gunfire and explosions suddenly filled the air, and Gage started to panic, thinking Connor was coming to save him and his fellow gang members. But little did Gage know that Connor had in fact set him up and tried to get him killed in these negotiations. Somehow surviving this attack, Gage would go on to believe that this attack was due to the fact that Connor feared him and was trying to go for over his role as leader. Getting Gage to distract the other gang was the perfect way of getting rid of his rivals, as well as the man he believed was coming for his role as gang leader. Now isolated from his prior gang, Gage thought about returning to them guns blazing to get his revenge for what they had put him through. But Gage was wise enough to see that doing that would only lead to certain death. Eventually, Gage decided to ignore it and move on from that specific gang, telling himself that he would never be so stupid or so trusting ever again. Lots of time passed as Gage joined many other gangs in the process, but much like his prior gang, he would go on to witness them destroy themselves from the inside due to their stupidity, laziness, and chem addictions, leading to Gage always leaving before it was too late. But eventually, as Gage ventured to the outskirts of the Commonwealth, he would come to meet the veteran raider known as Colter, a huge mountain of a man who had an incredible reputation behind him. Seeing that Colter was a fierce leader, Gage felt this man would be the correct leader for him to follow, and because of it, joined his ranks. During this time, word of Nuka-World was spreading throughout the Commonwealth, and Gage became aware of this. Gaining a positive reputation with Colter, he would go on to advise him to build his forces and to storm the theme park, enslave the population there, as well as killing and driving out any settlers who tried to fight back. Gage put forward some advice for Colter, stating he needed to bring together 3 groups of raider gangs he knew of to make sure their raid was a success. The first of these gangs were the Operators. The Operators were seen to many as an organized crime group or crime syndicate, with their overall aim being profit. As a gang, they weren't the most savage or bloodthirsty. However, they were far more functional as an outfit with an organized military unit and hierarchy system, meaning that when they were on a raid, they are a fierce gang to come against. Their dress sense usually consisted of armor designed to look like formal dress wear, adorned with large ammo belts slung over the shoulders bandolier style, or wrapped like a belt around their waist. However, despite the fact that they are a dangerous crime syndicate to come face to face with, they are far more approachable and reasonable compared to many other factions out within the wasteland. This is all thanks to their leader Maggie Mags Black, who originally hailed from Diamond City. Growing up there, she and her brother William, as well as Lizzie Wife, were part of the prestigious upper stands families in the city, but were eventually disowned and exiled due to a series of events that brought shame upon her family, most likely exploiting people for money. Maggie's mother was desperate to make sure she accepted her exile, stating she would no longer support her group financially. However, Mags replied to her mother, stating that she would be taking her inheritance and her mother could do nothing to stop her. Whilst they are the more approachable gang due to their upper-standing upbringing, they are still an incredibly dangerous faction to come into contact with, especially if you go against their wishes. The Disciples, however, are one of the most bloodthirsty factions out there within the wasteland. This group would have one goal, and that was to seek out thrill killing, meaning they would do anything to get this, usually meaning they go through sadistic means to execute their victims just because they can. Wherever the Disciples go and set up, blood follows them, as they display their killings for all to see, similar in style to the other bandit factions out within the Commonwealth. Now under the leadership of Nisha, who actually created the name of the Disciples, they would go around believing they were living life the way it was meant to be, under the principle of kill or be killed and survival of the fittest. This means they are free to do whatever they want, even going on to kill members from the other 2 factions under Colter's rule, with the only rule being don't get caught. If someone in their organization does kill someone and leaves evidence behind, they can face disciplinary measures, most likely leading to them being killed and disposed of by Nisha herself. Due to this mindset, the gauntlet would be their creation. Littered with dead bodies, traps and turrets, it would be filled with the most terrifying things you could think of and would lead to horrific deaths just for their own enjoyment. Out of the 3 raider groups, the Disciples would definitely be the most sadistic out of all of them. That's not to say that the pack is any better. Like the Disciples, the pack also live life with the survival of the fittest mindset, and if someone is too weak within their organization, they will be publicly shamed and exiled from their group within a heartbeat. The pack, however, set themselves up with an incredibly strict hierarchy structure like that of wolf packs within the wild. Their whole identity and appearance is set up in a similar way to how peacocks go about their lives, showing off colors and outlandish looks to boast to each other as well as the other other gangs. The whole gang is ruled by one they referred to as the Alpha, which at the time of 2287 is a man known as Mason. But within this group, it is expected that on a regular basis, the Alpha is to be challenged by someone within a group to shake up the leadership or prove that the Alpha is still worthy. But even if the Alpha is the most powerful within the group, it doesn't necessarily mean they were the smartest leader, meaning that the group could be poorly run if their Alpha is powerful but not smart. With this animalistic nature, the pack is extremely brutal in combat and will also use animals to get rid of their kills, frequently feeding human remains to carnivorous animals such as Yoguai that they keep in cages. Together with these three raider groups, Colter and Gage could storm Nuka-World and take it over from the peaceful settlers and traders and use it for their own home. And in the year 2286, after Gage contacted all three of the groups after he was requested to do so from Colter, the raiders did exactly that in the event that would be known as the Fall of Nuka-Town, USA. It didn't take long for the raiders to be successful in their raid, as they went on to kill some of the traders as well as enslaving some of the others. Some of the traders, however, did fall back into the other Nuka-World parks, but the raiders did not follow them, nor did they need to, as the dangers of bloodworms and defense robots would quickly dispatch them before they could try and attempt to hit back. Nuka-World was not under the rule of Colter and his three raider parties, and it was now time to create a society based within this area, strengthening their forces and venturing out to take more land within the Commonwealth. However, the newly appointed overboss Colter had other plans. Instead of doing what Gage and the other raiders hoped for, Colter became lazy and stuck to just sitting within Nuka-World Park, seeking out entertainment within the gauntlet. This frustrated Gage and the other raiders, who just wanted to further their conquests on the land. With this, Gage would seek outside assistance to try and shut down Colter and overthrow his regime as overboss of Nuka-World. This came in the year of 2287 as the sole survivor from Vault 111 made it to Nuka-World and ventured safely through the brutal gauntlet set up by the disciples. Getting through this barbaric place proved to Gage that they were worthy of being the new overboss of Nuka-World and can help form all of the raiders together into one faction and fulfill his original plan to allow them to further their conquest. With Gage's help, this plan worked as the sole survivor killed overboss Colter despite his supposed impenetrable armor, and with Colter's death, the sole survivor did indeed become the new overboss of Nuka-World. What the future holds for the raiders and the whole of Nuka-World is solely down to the sole survivor. Will they be able to join them all together and help them venture out into the Commonwealth, or will they just let down Gage like every raider leader before him? That will have to be decided by the sole survivor alone. But for now, Nuka-World as well as its original founder still remain as a memory of the old world, and maybe one day it will return to a place of safety and fun for the people of the Commonwealth. But until then, this has been the story behind the amusement park known as Nuka-World, as well as the raider gangs that inhabit it, those being the Pack, the Disciples, and the Operators. And that is all for now. I just want to say a huge thank you to you for watching this video, as well as my amazing patrons who allow me to make videos like this, including our small fishes, our big fishes, Christopher AVP Man, Last Persona User and Arto Krem, our YouTube channel Wise Ones, Fiery Italian and Ico the Wolf, our sharks Whale Such Gaming and Jason X117, our huge megalodons Sinus and Jacob Garcia, and our absolutely legendary starfish Shadow SGT. If you also want to support this channel, you can find a link in the description below, but if not, please do leave a like, check out my other lore videos in the playlists below, leave a subscribe if you haven't already, as well as a nice comment to help get this video out there. Also, a massive thank you for allowing us to hit 60,000 subscribers. That number still is just phenomenal. I still can't process how many people that really is. But that's all for now. Thanks again, stay safe out there, and see you all in the next one. Cheers.
Wouldn't that be the cheeriest place in all the world? Where the river's made of quantum and the mountaintops are fizz, with fun and games and rides for all the moms and pops and kids. Well, it turns out there's a place with